Hey everybody, Pastor Jeremiah here. I am so sorry I am not with you this morning. I am in Newton, Kansas, preaching at a church there and raising funds for Pack City Church. So I am excited to continue to see what God is doing. And speaking of which, we had a goal of $10,000 that we were trying to reach by September. Because of God's faithfulness, we have raised about $7,000 from other churches. But here's the thing I wanted to let you know, that because of your faithfulness and you partnering with God, we have, since you've been starting to pay your tithe and offerings, we have seriously raised about another $2,000 almost. And we're just really, really excited that God is doing some incredible things in your life and in the life of this church, all because of your faithfulness. So again, thank you for giving, and thank you for continuing to be faithful in God's call in your life. So I want to get into this launch training. Today we are on week 2. We'll see if we can get this to play here. I'm not sure why it's not playing. It's supposed to be playing. Anyway, if you need to see me, I'm over here. We might just have to walk through it like this. Man, come on. What's the deal? All right. Well, we'll just go through it this way then. How about that? So anyway, we're on our week 2 of our launch training, and today I want to talk about planning our first service. And so when we get into the pre-launch dates, the idea of having a solid launch date or a first launch date is essential, because it really does do a whole lot of things. It helps us in a whole lot of ways, and one of those ways is that it creates for us, justifies our budget and how we spend money. It builds excitement. It gives us goals to move towards. It creates a sense of urgency. It helps us establish a timeline and focus all of our efforts. And it really holds us accountable to everything that we know we should be doing. But I also think one of the biggest things that it does too is it shows our seriousness that we really are here to plant a church. We're not a fly-by-night gig that's going to be here today and gone tomorrow. Like, we want to establish something that is going to be here 100 years from now, continuing to serve everybody in this community. And so when you have a firm launch date, it causes all these things to have a residual effect. And so when we look at our pre-launch dates, we're looking at June 17th as our next preview service. And then we will have 2 in July 15th and July 29th. And then we will have 2 in August as well, August 12th and August 29th. So the June 17th and the July 15th, there's about a month gap there. But starting July 15th, we'll have about a 2-week gap between every service. And that'll be really exciting because that'll kind of get us into a greater motion. And then on September the 9th, that is going to be our launch Sunday. And it is going to be such an incredible Sunday that I can't even explain to you how exciting this is going to be. But I'll tell you, September 9th is not going to be the end. It is going to be the very beginning of the beginning. And so I am excited to see what God does there on September 9th. But these are our pre-launch and our launch dates that we will be doing this summer and into the fall. And so why are we launching in September? I don't know if you've asked this question, but I've had a couple people ask me why wait till September. The reason why we wait till September is basically just because of seasonal norms that we see in people's lives. So people typically tend to settle down after a busy summer. Summers are busy with a whole lot of stuff. And so people settle down in the fall. Everyone is looking to establish new routines. People, if they have moved, they typically moved into the summer and want to kind of establish that routine. And whenever there's a new season of life, especially like when school starts again, people tend to reevaluate their lives when starting a new season. And so we want to be part of that reevaluation. Like, have you considered coming to church as you are reevaluating your life in this new season? And so those are the main reasons why we want to launch in September. In the book Launch, it's this book right here. This was the book that Corey had talked to Pastor Graves about and recommended. And it's by Nelson Searcy. It's called Launch. And this is where the majority of this information is coming from. But in Launch, it says, never launch on these days: 4th of July, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, the week school lets out, or any other day other than Sunday. And the reason why is that those days are filled with competitive chaos. And so we are picking September to get past the chaos and to really look at launching in a normalized kind of time zone within the month or within the year. So why do we need to launch preview services? Is another great question. The reason we need to have preview services is because monthly services are the best strategic precursor to launching large, to launching with as many people as possible, as quickly as possible. It allows us to build a bigger launch team. It allows us to have more momentum. It refines our worship service as needed. I don't know if you know this or not, but sometimes worship services are incredibly difficult to work out. And so this helps us kind of work through our worship services to refine all the little details that need to be done. It causes us to be more effective with our resources. It also lowers our anxiety levels for launching our new church. So if we were just to show up and September 9th be our very first service, and our anxiety levels would be through the roof. But because we're doing pre-launch services or preview services, it allows us to kind of work through some of those anxieties and work out the details to feel better prepared. It also makes launch day less intimidating. So I'm just going to tell you, launch day is going to be intimidating anyways, but this makes it less intimidating because we kind of ease into the water a little bit to get acclimated. It also builds a greater awareness in our community about Pax City Church. So whenever you have a preview service, it lets the community know, hey, something new is happening here. Something new is getting started, and you want to be a part of it. It creates greater team excitement. It tests our launch location. It allows for better follow-up with guests, and it allows us to be able to build a better database for reaching people within our community. So preview services offer a ton of strategic benefit when it comes to getting ready to launch our church in September. So monthly services also help us stick with our original launch date. So we will always, as a church and as a people, we will always be tempted to do a couple of things. We will be tempted to wait until all the right conditions. We will be tempted to put it off until we are a little bit better at doing church. We will wait until we have more people, until we have more money. We'll even wait until things feel perfect, like till we feel confident enough to be able to plan a church. But here's the reality, is that conditions will never be perfect. Conditions will absolutely never be perfect, but our obedience needs to be perfect. I'm reminded of Moses when God sent Moses to lead the Israelites out of slavery, out of Egypt into the promised land. And when they get to the edge of the promised land, God told Moses to go, but the people said no, conditions aren't perfect, and so they disobeyed God. And even though their conditions weren't perfect, God still said to go. But because they disobeyed, they were the ones that were never allowed to enter into God's promise. So even though our conditions may not be perfect, our obedience has to be perfect. And so when you have monthly services, it helps us stick to our original launch date, and it helps us to say no to any temptations that would distract us from that. The other question is this: how do we staff our preview services? Well, our services will be entirely staffed by us. If you haven't realized it yet, we are the people who are going to be running this church. So there is nothing too remedial for us to do. There's no job too small, and really there's no job too big that we can't handle. So you are not called to a job. So I am not called just to preach. You are not called just to be an usher or a greeter. You are not called just to play an instrument or work a piece of technology. You are not called to a job. You are called to a church. And when the church needs you, you must be ready to rise to the occasion. So with everyone's help, this service will run incredibly smoothly. We just have to understand that we are the ones that will be doing all the work. So our preview service objectives look like this. We have a goal, and our goal is to execute due diligence in the days leading up to, the days of, and the days after our preview services. So task number one, in order to reach our goal, these are the days leading up to each service. These are the tasks that we need to be on top of the days leading up to our next services. One, we have to invite, right? We have to give away our invite cards. We have to talk to people that we are Church in the Warren Theater. As familiar as I thought this was, it's not. This is a very, very brand new idea to a lot of people. So make sure you mention it. Make sure you talk about it. Make sure you invite people to church at the theater. Make sure that you direct people to our website and to our Facebook page. Always choose to be the invitation. It'll be a choice. It's nothing that you can just really kind of come by naturally. It'll be a choice to be an invitation to Christ and his church. Remember to like, comment, tag, and share on all of our Facebook posts, and invite family and friends to help join us in meeting our critical mass. This is task one and the days leading up to each service. So task number two are the days of the preview services. We're going to need people to do some very specific things. We need each of you to make plans to show up at the theater at 7 a.m. ready to go to work. We also need everybody to be able to show helpfulness and enthusiasm to all our guests. We need people to be ready and willing to participate in all aspects of the church as needed, because I'm going to tell you, it's going to feel like chaos when we get there, and there's going to be something that's going to need somebody's attention, and we need everybody to be willing to go when the need arises. So the final task that we have on the days of the preview services is we need you to stick around afterwards to help tear down and to pack up again. And it's not just about packing up again. There will also be opportunities to really minister to people here after church on Sundays. And so, maybe God's telling you that it's time to begin ministering to people as well. So there's going to be a lot of stuff to do even after our services. The third task is the days after the preview services. The things that we need to do is, first of all, we're going to have to collect information and data to do really good follow-up with all of our visitors. So the three ways that we do follow-up is, one, we have to follow up thoroughly, and that's asking the question, what is most effective way of following up with people? Is it through email, text, phone call, a visit? We don't know yet. We're going to have to try a bunch of stuff, and when we try those things, we're going to have to stick with what works. Second is that we need to follow up quickly. So fast follow-up is the best follow-up. And we have to really start following up the very next day, because people's minds on Monday are still on church from Sunday. So it's the absolute best time to follow up with people. And thirdly, we have to follow up personally. We have to send handwritten notes, letters, personalized text, all the above. Because the reality is that people want a personal touch from their church. So that is our launch training for today. I tried to keep it under 15 minutes. I'm trying to work quickly to help keep us moving on this. If you need to go back and review it, you can watch it all week long. But again, I'm sorry I missed you guys today. I hope that you are just incredibly blessed by all that God is doing, and we will talk to you very soon.